The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, and welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In today's episode, I'll be joined by Todd Pieri, who's the COO of AquaStar. We're going to go into detail about the new AquaStar Pipeline Filter. If you haven't seen this filter or heard about it, you're definitely going to get all the information you're going to need to make an informed decision when upgrading your pool filter or a pool filter on your route. And I think you're going to really enjoy this informative podcast about the AquaStar Pipeline Filter. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Also receive priority service, enhanced rebate programs, a discount on your general liability insurance through SPA, a discount on your pool routing software through Skimmer, and an opportunity to co-brand with Leslie's on your social media, website, truck, and more. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro. So I'm joined today by Todd Pieri, who is the COO of AquaStar, the Chief Operating Officer. How are you doing today, Todd?
Great, David. How are you?
Good. We're here because of the AquaStar Pipeline Filter, and that's kind of put AquaStar on the map here for a lot of pool pros out in the industry that maybe are not too familiar with AquaStar. So let's start by just having you introduce who AquaStar is and what kind of products they manufacture.
Okay, yeah. AquaStar is a privately held company, one owner. We were founded in 2002, and the owner, Ulaf, was a toolmaker by trade growing up, and he began doing injection molder products at a very early age. Founded this company in 2002 on the premise of making white goods for the pool industry, but also understanding that VGB was coming. And when VGB hit in end of 2008, 2009, AquaStar had 15 solutions out there as far as drain cover sizing, when most competitors had none or one. And that was kind of the hula hoop moment for AquaStar and really put the company on the map per the VGBA standard. Once that happened, he began to reinvest in the company. Olaf's crazy forward thinker. We are a vertically integrated company. We literally, from napkin concept to finish, we do everything in-house. We're getting into some things now that require electronics that we do have to go overseas for, but for the most part, everything's done here in the U.S., in California. That's where the company came from, so we're almost 20 years old now.
Yeah, so if people aren't familiar with the drain covers you're talking about, they're the anti-entrapment. They're the gigantic drain covers you see on the bottom of pools. So AquaStar is the producer of a lot of those drain covers. Is that correct?
Yeah, still the leader today in the space. And with the new changes that happened last year with the VGBA standard relative to how we manufacture and how we test these drains, we're the leader in that space as well. We have covers now with all pipe sizes and all sump depths. Flow ratings. So yeah, still the leader in that space. And now we're getting into equipment and ready to go after the entire pad.
Yeah, we should also emphasize, you mentioned everything's made in the USA, which I think is important for the listeners because sourcing the products or outsourcing them, it's really nice to know that these are made here in California.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun because we literally from design to finish. So we design, we make our own tools. For those that don't understand injection molding, you're basically making a steel compartment that you push together, you put plastic in, and when you open it up, it pops out. It's the part you want. So we make our own tools, which allows us to make adjustments when needed. And then from there, we do the assemblies and then ship them to your distribution companies. And the great part about that is that we really listen to the industry. If you look through our catalog, there are solutions that were asked for by applicators, by builders, whether it's on the skimmer with a water stop or a return fitting with a water stop, like a lot of influence from the industry. And the owner is really good about listening to us and listening to the industry and what they need.
Yeah, so I would say since you're making these main drain covers that I would say are bulletproof, they're highly respected in the industry. The transition to making pool equipment sounds logical because you have everything in place to make a really solid product that is respected in the industry. Now, even though the pipeline is a new filter just coming out, AquaStar does have a track record of making really good molded products. So let's go into the filter and let's go over some of the features of it. Now, people may see the pictures of it. It looks like a black Star Wars droid, basically. And I know we talked earlier, you can't really do much about labeling and putting, droid pictures on there without Disney suing you. But besides that, the look of the filter is definitely unique in the industry. So let's just start with the beginning. The size of the filter would be the first thing that's eye-catching to the pool pro.
Yeah, it's the sizing is definitely different than what we've seen out there relative to what it competes against. So, there were a number of things that we wanted to address with this filter, and the size and the hydraulics were massive to us because we started this project 5 years ago, and we brought everybody's filter in and we tested it, and we didn't understand why when you went from let's say a 400 square foot to a 500 square foot, why those hydraulics didn't change. Like, we're going bigger, so we should get a little more flow, but we saw that they weren't. And then we looked at the NSF data and we saw that didn't change, and that didn't make sense to us. So when we started this 5 years ago, safety was the number one thing, because we know filter separations in our industry are still the number one injury. So safety and accessibility was huge. But to answer your question about sizing, we wanted to pare it down. I mean, we look at our heaters, how big they used to be, and the size of them now, and they're exponentially smaller than they've ever been, and they're more efficient than they've ever been. And we looked at how the companies that were making filters were moving water in and out of them, and we saw holes big time, and saw the inefficiencies and what we could address. We could flow exponentially more water through our units, as you know, relative to size than what you see with the bigger units. So our smallest unit, the 27,000, has a 150 GPM flow rate on the residential side, and the bigger one, the 35,000, which is just a little bit taller, has a flow rate of 200 GPM. And those rival, or if not better than, the 400 and 500 square foot filters in the industry today.
I think it's amazing that the filter hasn't changed over probably 25, 30 years. I mean, when I first got in the industry, we had really ugly looking cartridge filters. You open it up and there's 20 little cartridges inside there. It was kind of crazy, but since the advent of the single bullet cartridge and the 4 cartridge filter, there really hasn't been any innovation in the industry for over 25 years, I would say, maybe longer. I think this is a nod to AquaStar making this filter and the size of it and doing all the research. So your product, I would say, is something revolutionary. Is that a word I could use?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like you said, that was kind of low-hanging fruit for us to address because it hadn't changed forever, and we knew we could do a better job hydraulically, and we felt with the element design we could do a better job filtering water than most cartridge filters do, and that proved out to be exponentially better after going through NSF testing. And so, yeah, we looked at that filter and it's like, it's got to be a better way. And then also, whenever we make anything, we have the service pro in mind, and then also the end user, and having the trade in mind relative to getting in and out of this filter and cleaning it in an efficient way. That was the most important for us. Like, you can get in and out of this filter with a filter clean almost as fast as you can get a band clamp off and back together. It's very efficient on all facets.
You do use the Pleatcoat filter, which a lot of pool pros love, that particular cartridge. I know I'm skipping ahead, but we'll address that a little bit later. And now the safety issue. Now, of course, you make anti-entrapment main drain covers, so it would be really smart if you made a really safe filter, right?
Yes. So moving water in and out of a pool in an efficient, in a safe fashion is our MO, right? That's what we want to bring to the industry. And we brought a lid development to this unit that allows you with 2 hands to unthread in the quad thread that we have in this system. And before it's completely unthread and you hit that first safety stop, you completely depressurize the O-ring. So if the pump was on, or you forgot to really, turn on the air relief valve, your feet would get wet. That's the worst that would happen. And you would know, oh, I need to turn the pump off, or at that point, if you didn't use the air relief valve, all your pressure would be released. And then you have to release the handles one more time and open that up to get into the unit. And it's really simple. You can get into our filter in less than 5 seconds.
I think it's funny that a lot of people don't realize how dangerous cleaning a filter is. You know, the homeowners that do it themselves and the pool pros that are starting out. There's like a little picture on there with like the filter lid popping off and it has danger. But you really need to see one explode to get an idea of how dangerous this can be.
We've talked to a number of service professionals that have, hundreds and hundreds of pools on routes and lots of service techs working for them. And we show them this filter, and their first response is, now everybody on my team is a filter cleaner. Like before, they would only trust 1, 2, or maybe 3 people to actually do filter cleans, because not only getting it apart, but getting it back together properly. So when you do turn the pump back on, you don't have an issue. Yeah, it's extremely important to us. And again, making it efficient to get in and out of was very important.
Yeah, so I'm going to be testing that out when I go to clean it. I have one installed and it's due for a cleaning, so I'm really excited about cleaning it. I'm not going to actually have the pool running while I get the lid off, because even though I could, probably I want to test it out. Let's go back to the performance. Now, your slogan is not making the whole country Florida with a single bullet cartridge filters. That's not your slogan, because the filtration performance is different than, let's just compare it to what you would find in Florida, which would be a 150 square foot cartridge filter, single bullet. That's very common there. Maybe 200 is the max that they have over there, but I see a lot of 150s and 100 square foot. Now, yours in size looks very similar to that, but back to the filtration performance, it's not the same as that kind of filter, right?
Not at all. Again, and this is not our data. Every company sends their filter off to NSF to get certification, and they do hydraulic testing and they do filtration testing. They do a turbidity test. The numbers that we got back from them rival those 400 and 500 square foot filters in the area. Now, the 27,000 cartridge filter we're talking about now has a 200 square foot element in it, and the 35,000 cartridge filter has a 250 square foot cartridge in it. We're going to market with is square footage based off of the numbers that we're getting. Square footage is over. We're not going to size pools anymore by square footage, and we shouldn't be, because just because we're giving you square footage doesn't mean you're actually using it. We're going to the market based off of performance, and that's why we called it the PLF 27,000 and the PLF 35,000, because those numbers note what those two units can handle commercially. And then obviously when we turn over to the residential side and start moving water or doing turnovers of 8 and 10 times, the sizing goes up exponentially. So if we just take like a 400 square foot and we compare it to our 27,000, they both have 150 GPM flow rate. When you look at the pressures in ours, we are at 4 PSI at 150 GPM. 4. And you look at the most popular 400 square foots in our industry, out of the box, clean, at 150 square foot, they are at 11 PSI. So we're outkicking them almost 3 times on the pressure side. So we're moving water through it so much easier. And that's where that pipeline technology, that perfect cylinder that we use comes from. And that's where we get our hydraulics from. And then when we look at the turbidity test, that's where we were really blown away, because we knew we were going to pass, in less than 5 times, and that's what the standard requires for cartridge filters. Now, DE filters are different. You have to pass in 1 turnover with those, but cartridge filters, they allow 5, which seems kind of like another energy suck. It seems very lenient. And we sent our unit in, and we got a call back from NSF, and they had the president of the company and some of the higher ups on the call, and we were nervous. We're like, oh man, this is not going to go well. And they said, we just want to congratulate you. You're the first cartridge filter that we've ever tested that passed the turbidity test on 1 turn. And so that was massive for us. That at that point, we knew we were using our entire element, and opposed to what we typically see in the industry. So that's why we can perform, like the bigger filters. So the turbidity test is where they take a tank of water and gunk it up, oils, lotions, debris, and then they run it through your filter, and you have to clean the water up to 70% to pass the turbidity test. And they allow cartridge filters 5 passes to clean the water up to 70%. So we're moving water through these things and we're not cleaning it. It makes no sense. We passed in 1. DE's pass in 1, but make no mistake, DE clarity is still much better. But we are up there on performance because we got the water to about 80% clear, and DE filters to about 97 to 98% on the turbidity test.
And we should mention, thanks for explaining that test, because that was my next question for the listeners, because you say something like that, they need to know what test that is. And explain the NSF, because this is something you mentioned it a few times now, and people don't know that you have to pay for this particular certification. And what is it, just briefly in a minute, what does this entail?
So it's structure. Every cartridge filter has to be able to withstand 100 PSI and not explode before that. We engineered ours to withstand, we get up to about 200 PSI on ours. Don't try it, but really bulky unit, as you know and you saw. Then the performance is once you get past the structural part of it, and then the material part, you have to be very specific with the materials that you use, that they will qualify, and then you move into performance. How does the unit perform relative to hydraulics, and then relative to cleanability?
And they're an independent testing company, right?
Yep.
I guess the other thing, looking at the filter, when I see them in your background there, I think the sky's the limit actually for this, because you can make a small unit if you needed to, and then you can make a larger unit probably if it calls for that. You may even be able to make a unit with a quad type DE cartridge in there. I don't know if that's possible. I'm throwing that out there because a lot of people like the quad DE filter, because you mentioned DE is still number 1, and a lot of guys love DE filters, old timers especially. I don't like cartridge filters; they're no good. And so the quad DE filters are something that people like, and I like them myself also, because you get the cartridge but the efficiency of DE. So is there anything in the works in that department, or is that just too out in left field?
It's not yet. Again, we listen to the industry, and we want this filter to get out there and start getting the feedback. And I know you and I talked about the water clarity and if it changed for you or not, but we are getting a ton of feedback that when guys are pulling out cartridge filters and in replacing it with ours, that their water clarity is going up. Because again, when you look at the turbidity test, we're collecting more debris than in using our entire element than what the cartridge filter was before. And again, we're not 2D levels, but if we get a big response from the industry saying we can do better on water clarity and this is what we think you should do, we'll go for it. But right now we're getting the feedback that these are almost DE clarity level, that when you're replacing a DE and you're putting ours in, we're not seeing much of a change, which is fantastic. If we can get DE clarity out of a cartridge filter, that's a home run.
I was just throwing that out there because I'm not sure what the R&D is, and of course you can make a smaller one and a large one. That's not a problem either.
We did the bases on these. We set it up to where we have a plate that you can set in and link these together in a very uniform fashion. So if you do need to get up into that, our 200,000 gallons and 300,000 gallons, like you can chain these together and then manifold it off and make a bigger unit.
So we should mention the size of this filter real quick. I probably forgot to do that earlier. And it's a good selling point. So sorry about that, Todd. So what are the sizes of the filters?
So your base is going to be roughly 19 inches square, and then your height are 36 and 48, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's 38 and 46.
38 and 46? Yeah, perfect. Those sizings relative to what they're performing against are literally half the size of what you have now in the industry and what we're used to.
Just in layman's term, let's say I have a 15,000 gallon pool. Which particular model? My personal preference is always go with the larger filter, but with the two models here, the average size pool is about 15,000 in my area, 15,000 gallons. Which filter would you recommend for the customer?
I would recommend the 27,000 all day long, because again, that's a rating that's a commercial rating, and when we move into residential, it's exponentially more. So it'll handle every bit of that 15,000 gallon. I think we've oversized forever because we're not getting the performance that we should be getting out of these filters. And now that we have units that perform well and clean water well, I think the 27,000 gallon all day long. I've challenged a number of service pros to on their own pool to that wanted to put the bigger one on, and they had a big pool, they had a 30,000 gallon pool. I'm like, put the small one on, and if you don't like the performance, I'll give you the big one, and it's 2 unions, and you're off and running. So, and I have not got one pushback yet that they want the bigger filter.
I think it's just ingrained in our heads as pool
Yeah.
pros. Bigger is better because the filters are so inefficient. And I've taken 4 cartridge filters apart, and I agree with the inefficiency. Like half of it is still clean on the inside. You got maybe one cartridge with a heavy load. The other cartridges are a little bit dirty. When you hose them off, you do see that discrepancy in how that cartridge picks up. And then the sand filters, of course, and D filters. So we always want to go for the bigger size. And so for people to get their head around the fact that that little tiny filter behind you is enough for a 30,000 gallon pool, it's just kind of mind blowing for the industry.
It is, and but we've been in the market for almost a year now, and it keeps getting proven out. And we went to the market relative to commercial size because we thought if we went relative to residential size, we would really blow everybody's mind, and no one would they would just think it was a joke and not go for it. So yeah, that little filter can handle every bit of a 30,000 gallon pool with no problem. And when you talk about the elements being clean in one spot and dirty in the other with the quads, whether it's the inside or the filters where they're bringing water in and blowing it right into the element, and you get maybe 20% of that filter element dirty because it's right where the water's blowing. If you look at our filter design, it's very unassuming, but we're bringing water in under the element, and then we're moving it up through that cylinder in a uniform fashion because it's not balloon shaped, it's not belly shaped, so we can move water in a uniform fashion up around the element, and that's where we get the ability to use all of the element that we have in there. And when you take our element out after it's time to do a filter clean, you will see that the entire thing is dirty.
Yeah, since you're talking about the element, let's mention again that it is a pleat coat, and it's pleat coat cartridge, and it's actually uniquely designed for this filter. You want to go over some of those details?
Yeah, so Pleatco, as you said, is very well respected, and we really, really like their media. And we didn't necessarily agree with some of the designs out there, so we took our engineers and put them to task and said, okay, this is the size of filter we're going with. Let's design an element where we can use the entire thing. Because if we take an element and we make it smaller but keep the core the same, well, now we got to pack exponentially more pleats in there. And when you squeeze these things together, the pleats, you're not using the entire square footage that's in there. You can tell them it's 1,000 square feet, and it doesn't matter because you're only using 20% of it. So our idea was to take that element, the same size core, and then expand it a little bit. We made it about a 3/4 of an inch wider, and then we eliminated pleats. So you could actually get all the way back, and you could actually use all of the square footage that's in there. And then also that helps on the efficiency side with cleaning. The Pleatco element or the Pleatco media was very important to us, and they allowed us to make a design that they would make for us and come to the market on. And also on the cleanability side, which is amazing with Pleatco and with the unit that we have, NSF does a test where they do one clean after that turbidity test, and you take the element out and you clean it per the manufacturer's instructions. So you can tell them anything in your instructions. Put it in a bucket of chemicals. Clean it with a hose and this nozzle. So ours is simply take it out, spray it down with a garden hose, and put it back in. And at that point, you're allowed to lose 50% efficiency and still pass the standard. Crazy lenient. So we lost 2% efficiency when we put our unit back in. So that added about 1.5, 2 psi more to our filter. And when you remember, we're at 4 at 150. Now we're up 6.5. We're still twice as good as the 400s and the 500s out of the box. Yeah, the Pleatco media is amazing, and we're really happy with what they've done for us.
And so what kind of warranty is on the filter?
So we have a 1-year warranty on the filter. As everybody knows, we're homemade here in the U.S. So we always stand behind our products. If they get past a year and we know it's a manufacturer's defect, we'll take care of everybody. But yeah, 1 year warranty, and then we'll hit on it a little bit. I'm sure we have a variable speed pump coming out, and when you couple those together, both of them will get a 3-year warranty on it.
Thank you for going over the filter. And I think the general overview is what listeners want to hear. And we're going to dive a little deeper in the next podcast for the pool pro out there. But thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was a pleasure. And it was great being here. And we can't thank you enough for bringing us in and letting us explain our product. We're really excited about it.
And to learn more about the AquaStar Pipeline Filter, you can go to their website, www.aquastarpoolproducts.com. Again, that's aquastarpoolproducts.com. And on their site, you're going to have a lot of documentation. They have the NSF certification information, plus all the different aspects of the filter in different PDF files. Definitely something to look at. They actually have a really good website, by the way, and I like how it's organized, and all the information on the AquaStar Pipeline Filter is extremely detailed and can be found there on their site. And if you're looking for the other 2 podcasts in the series, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. On the banner, there's a podcast icon, and you would just click on the icon, and it'll take you to a drop-down menu. And Todd stuck around to do 2 more podcasts, one in more detail on the filter, and another one about their new VS pump that's coming out. And again, you can find those on my website. You can also find the AquaStar Pipeline Filter page on my website by going to the pool products section and scrolling down to the AquaStar Filter, and you can learn more about that on my site. And if you're interested in my coaching program, you can join that and learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week. God bless. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro.